Spontaneity Shop presents The Guilty Feminist 10 for 10 with me, Deborah Frances-White, and my very special guest, Jen Brister. Jen Brister,
Deborah Frances-White.
Welcome to 10 for 10, the Guilty Feminist podcast in which we ask 10 of our regular Guilty Feminist contributors about the last 10 years and even about the next 10 years. Thank you so much for joining us here in my home.
I can't believe it's 10 years.
Seems implausible.
Wild to me. I remember doing, the first one that I did was in Brighton.
That's right.
And that was ages ago. That was like, my babies were little. They were just tiny. Maybe
4th of March 2017, according to my clipboard. In the Brighton Old Courtroom. Yeah, special guest. So you were the guest. Margaret Cabourn-Smith co-hosted. Do you remember the theme?
Hysteria.
Yes, well done. Chosen, as Philip Hammond had said, that a female MP was getting hysterical. In fact, we've got a clip from that episode. Could we play the clip now?
Oh, lovely. Hello.
Hello. Does anyone else think Jen looks like Audrey Hepburn?
No. Thanks, ladies. Thanks a bunch. Thanks a blinking bunch. I do have this haircut, and it's not for everybody. Clearly not for my mum, who's staying with me this weekend in Brighton. She just said to me, "Oh, my God. I don't think your hairdresser likes you." I was like, "Thanks, Mum. Thanks a lot."
She did say that to me.
Wow, I don't think your hairdresser likes you.
She said that to me. I don't think your hairdresser likes you. Thanks, Mum.
Was that, because this was early doors for podcasts, was that your first live podcast in front of an audience?
It was, yeah. And there wasn't that many, or indeed any, podcasts that you could guest on. I don't remember there being anything. I think that must have been my first guesting on a podcast as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was very much a different time now because you can't leave the house now without accidentally guesting on a podcast.
I literally just pop out for some milk and there I am, podding. I'm podding every single day. In fact, I've got a pod blackout, actually, Deborah.
Oh.
So I've made a huge exception to come on here.
Really?
Seriously, I was like, no more. Got to stop.
How long is the embargo?
Well, unfortunately, I've got to do my own, which I'm livid about. But the embargo will go on for as long as I'm allowed to do that.
Wow.
Until I have to promote something, and then I'll go back on to all of the podcasts.
So what's your own that you're going to do?
Memory Lane, that I do with Kerry.
Yes.
Which you're welcome to come on whenever you want.
Booked. I'm not on an embargo at all.
You can come on.
I'm delighted.
You can come on, bring your photographs, we'll talk about you.
Oh, I'd love that.
But yeah, no, I don't. I'm done. I'm bored of, because I'm just bored of talking.
Yes, I understand that.
Do you know what I mean?
I understand that.
Me.
But I am, but
we are going to do that now.
But listeners/viewers, Jen's not bored of talking about this, just to be clear.
Absolutely not.
Don't tune out.
No.
She wants to come.
How can I be bored of feminism?
She can't. She wants to come and go down memory lane.
Memory lane.
What are your memories of the Guilty Feminist? Do you have any key memories of doing Guilty Feminists?
Well, I remember always being a bit nervous about doing the stand-up.
Really?
Yeah. So doing the stand-up, so that you'd say to me, Jen, the theme is, and it'd usually be like 4 days before the podcast. Jen, the theme is whatever it is. And I'd be like, oh, God, Christ, okay. And then I'd have to be like frantically thinking about, do I have any material that I can crowbar that could be that? Yeah, so that always made me feel a little bit tense. But then after I did the first one, I was like, oh my God, I am never going to get an easier audience than a GF audience. They are kind.
Oh, no, I don't think they're kind.
You don't think so?
I think that the audience project excitement and brilliance onto the guests because they know the guests will be their cup of tea. So if they haven't heard of you before, they'll go, I think what it is the best way to put it is that audience is in on the joke. At a normal comedy club, there are little tents that maybe they'll be the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
And so it's just an environment where they're so relaxed and happy to be there and they know you're their thing and then you are their thing. And then they get to know you in that environment, or they've come to see you because they love your Instagram and they're excited to be there because specifically for you. But I think they also love the dynamic of you on the Guilty Feminist, and that's a place where they're going to get to see you interact in a certain sort of way.
Yeah, I think that was also about this time that my material had changed. And I put that down to the fact that I wasn't on HRT at the time. So I was very angry. And so I had...
You weren't on HRT?
I wasn't on HRT, so I was kind of crazy. But that around that time, 2017, 2018, 2019, those 3 years when I wasn't on HRT and should have been, my comedy changed, my stand-up changed. There was a real shift in gears. And I really think that the Guilty Feminist, your podcast, fed into that, because I had to become much more conscious of what I was saying and why I was saying it. And not saying that like I was like, oh, this has got to be about, you know, everything I say had to be political, but just being a bit more aware of the impact, or being more aware of my platform, maybe. Like you were using your platform in this really positive way, and I was like, I've got a platform. I can do stuff. And I think that really did feed into that show Meaningless that I did. And it made me think, oh, I can talk about this stuff, and I will talk about periods, and I will talk about, you know, what I realized I was going through at the time, which was I just started perimenopause. And yeah, and I do really attribute a lot of that to what you were doing, because you had created a movement and you had created an audience, and then we could see that audience. We were like, oh, I didn't know that audience existed. Right. I didn't know you were there. None of us did. And I think even you were surprised, going, I'm going to do this. And then how many women were like, oh, thank Christ.
Oh, completely.
Finally.
Completely. I started it, as you'll remember, with Sophie Hagen, and she'd said 2,000 listeners is a good amount for a new podcast. And I thought, well, if we got 2,000 listeners every week, that's like playing the Palladium every week. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I would have been thrilled with that. And so when I think the first episode got 10,000 really quickly, we were like, oh, something's up here. And I think you're right. I think it was just a gap that wasn't being fed, an audience that wasn't being fed, of people that wanted to be entertained. They didn't want it to be a dull lecture. They didn't want it to be po-faced. They didn't want it to be for perfectionists, and, you know, that they had to be...
They didn't want to feel guilty because they weren't, you know, meeting whatever the target was of being the, you know, purest.
The perfect feminist.
Yeah.
So I think the title did a lot of heavy lifting. They were like, oh, I'm a guilty feminist. I'm feminist, but I'm not perfect. But that's interesting. And I think I used to be... I think a lot of people felt that pressure around stand-up, that, oh no, I've got to... And I used to say, oh, just crowbar in something you've got. You know, you've got a routine about, you know, going to Tesco, but you could start it off by saying, I've been thinking I should take up more space. And then you tell a story about how in Tesco you know, ended up ramming your shopping trolley into something. And but it was still a real job of work. And sometimes people thought, well, I haven't got anything, and I'm going to have to write something. And after a while, after a long time, I realised that was a bit of an imposition. And actually, the audience don't really care what the stand-up is about. They're there to see us talk about a subject, do our I'm a Feminist butts, and they're there to see this comic be the best they can be. But what is interesting is that a lot of people also said in that era where we were shaping our stand-up, that they wrote bespoke, and actually it helped them write shows that were more feminist. Yeah. Because they're like, well, I've got 5 minutes or 10 minutes on this, or the audience really went for that. Maybe I could develop that. And
I
ended up with
bit.
more shows.
I developed a bit on the stage. I think it was about periods that I was doing, talking about having a period and not wanting to... Oh, that was it. The adverts that were like, you know, let's go roller skating, or, you know, or something like that.
Let's go roller skating in white trousers.
Yeah, I think the joke was something like, I didn't realise bleeding into my knickers was the equivalent of a spa weekend, you know, and I think that came from doing a Guilty Feminist show. And I was like, you know, when you end up improvising something, you're like, oh my God, well, that's the line. And that ended up going in the show. So, you're right. You do end up... I mean, it was very stressful, Deborah, just to FYI.
Yeah. I think we've got a clip from that we'd love to play so we could listen and see, is this the first time you've ever done this?
Okay, so there's a rule in comedy that women must never, ever, ever mention their period. Okay? This rule was told to me when I first started stand-up comedy by everybody in comedy, including women, because we all know that women are barely funny anyway. God forbid that they should mention anything like their periods. Because that's not very funny. And when people told me this, I went, of course not. Periods aren't funny. I mean, that's just ridiculous. How awful of any woman to mention she has a period. How hack. And all of us women agreed never to mention it again. Because, of course, if men had periods, they wouldn't mention them, would they? I mean, why would we mention a monthly cycle where we bleed, experience pain, mood swings, and on occasion, we can actually be hospitalised? No, we shouldn't mention anything as hack as periods, but do carry on chatting about wanking and how embarrassing it is to get an unwanted erection at work, because everybody needs to hear about that. I'll just pretend like I'm Barbie and it's all smooth down there and there's nothing to see here. Can you imagine how much stand-up comedy there would be from men if they had to stick a tampon up their arse once a month?
Oh my God, that is clearly the first time I've ever said that.
That's the first time.
That was the first time I ever did that, was on your... I'm listening to that going, oh, that's being read. I'm reading that.
Yeah.
I thought it was further down the line. I've written that for the Guilty Feminist.
Yeah.
I completely have misremembered that.
I'm absolutely delighted that
I take it back.
anything was authored for the show that then had a future life, and I'm thrilled that this is the first time I'm really realising it that there's been more feminist shows, solo shows in Edinburgh and toured around the country or even around the world. I've seen you in Australia recently doing a solo show.
Perth, yeah.
I'm just really thrilled that more feminist shows, stand-up comedy shows, have existed, possibly because people have had to write bespoke for the show and then gone, well, that's a perfectly good 5 or 10 that I can then create a show around, or it can be part of my show. I think that's lovely. I asked Phoebe Waller-Bridge to do a monologue for a storytelling festival I was doing, and she was very reluctant, and I kind of cajoled her into it. And that was the first 10 to 15 minutes of Fleabag.
Oh my God, Deborah! Your tentacles
for a long time
everywhere.
It was called Chancing Your Arm, because that was the theme I gave everyone.
Yeah.
Because I already had a short story that I thought the theme could be Chancing Your Arm, and I thought it was kind of broad enough. If you're international, you don't know what Chancing Your Arm means. It means
trying your luck.
Trying your luck, yeah. And that apparently was sent out by her writing agent for a while as Chancing Your Arm. That was the original title of Fleabag.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm sure she would have written that or something is equally as brilliant either way, but it was the first inspiration. So I feel like somebody else needs to give me a...
platform?
No.
A nudge?
What do you call it? A prompt.
A prompt.
So your prompt was period poverty.
What can I give you as a prompt, Deborah?
I need a prompt. Absolutely. Jen.
Okay. Yeah.
You're one of the most successful British comedians on Instagram. You've got like 1 million followers.
I have, yeah.
What did you do? Like you just did you put out like just wonderful clips of you being incredible?
I get asked this question a lot, and I always say please do not attribute any kind of savviness, tech savviness to this. I needed to sell tickets in Crewe. Okay? And I think a lot of comedians can hard relate to this. Crewe's a hard one to sell tickets for. And my numbers were really bad. And a friend of mine, I can't even, to this day, if you're listening to this and you remember who you are, please remind me who you are, because I can't remember the comedian that told me to do this. It said, why don't you put your clips up on Instagram? And I said, why would I do that? They're already up on YouTube. And they went, no one's, unless they search for it, they're not going to find it on YouTube. What you could do is you could put up a clip, one of your Apollo clips, and then say, at the end of it, put some text saying, I'll be in Crewe on blah, blah, blah. And I went, oh God. And then I went, okay, I'm going to do that. And then I realized that I didn't know how to edit it to make it fit a phone. So the chap that edited my podcast at the time, Women Talking Bollocks, I asked him, he was like, I can do it for you. He did it for me he would now say ridiculously cheaply, which he did. And he cut up all of my Apollo clips. And I thought, oh, well, what I'll do is I'll do one clip a week. And then in the blurb, I'll go, I'm on tour, come and see me. So I put up a clip and it went bananas.
Wow.
And I was like, oh God. And some comedians will contact me going, that clip's doing really well. I was like, yeah, that's crazy. Then I put up another clip and then that went viral. And then every clip I put up, I had like a dozen clips and each one went viral.
Wow.
And to the point where I wouldn't look at my phone. It was too overwhelming. So I was getting so many comments and so many messages, a lot of them positive, some of them very negative. And I couldn't cope with it.
Wow.
So I would literally not look at Instagram at all, post on Monday, put my phone down, and then Chloe, my partner, would check my Instagram and go, you've now got 300,000 followers. You've now got 500,000 followers.
Did you delete the negative comments?
No, kept them up there because it will help the algo.
Oh, wow.
I never delete negative comments. I keep everything. Just keep it all going. And also, I think, I'm like, you said that. You can stand by that comment. It's all up there on the public forum. You think I'm a, ugly cunt. Okay, well, we'll just keep that up there. And
wow.
I don't even report them. I'm like, just keep them up.
Wow.
They're all there for anyone to see.
And that really, really took off. And that sort of really speaks to, I think, the quality of your stand-up and the relatability of your stand-up. And what's great about that is that you're no longer dealing with gatekeepers who are saying, not sure the public are going to get you.
That is so true. And they're still saying that. They're still saying, I don't know if the public will get you. But it's harder to come up with that excuse anymore because I'm like, well, I've got 1 million followers and they're all following me because they like my stand-up.
Have you been booked for more panel shows and things because of that? Really?
No. But there aren't any panel shows, are there? But I didn't get any TV off of it. I thought I would. I deludedly was like, and now I will be. But I don't think I got any telly between 2022 and 2024, which is when I blew up. So I got nothing.
That's interesting. But also TV isn't what it was for ticket sales and which is, what we're trying to get.
Yeah,
in terms of it's much more important to be
selling a
big
tour
on Instagram than it is to be on a TV show that fewer people are watching.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it might give me a few more opportunities in TV, and I thought I might be asked in for meetings or, hey Jen, have you got any ideas, stuff that you'd like to do? But no, I didn't get anything.
Wow.
But I mean, the flip of that is, who cares? I managed to sell out a tour.
Did you sell well in Crewe?
I still didn't sell Crewe out. And Crewe, I don't know what to tell you, but that was one of the dates I didn't sell out.
But so it was all for Crewe.
It was all for Crewe, and Crewe didn't deliver.
If you're listening, if you're watching Crewe, come on. Next time Jen goes to Crewe.
I'm back in Crewe, guys. And we've already established that I'm not going to sell out Crewe, but we've just gone, if I can hit this much,
it's
worth going.
She's coming back.
I'm coming back, baby.
She's coming back with the blind optimism
of somebody.
Of a comedian.
Yeah, with the delusion.
What can I ask you, in the last 10 years of feminism, we've covered sort of the Guilty Feminist and how that's shaped some of your stuff or your feelings or your own platform. How do you feel about the last 10 years of feminism? Have you grown as a feminist?
Definitely. I don't think I understood the language around lots of, like when we talk about trans women and trans men and cis women and cis men, I think to begin with, and, feel free to judge me, but this is absolutely true. I didn't really understand what a cis woman was.
No, I didn't know.
And I think around that time, 2017, 2018, when I was writing my show, Meaningless, and it was talking a lot about periods and it was talking a lot about menopause, it was talking a lot about hormones, and I was talking a lot about women. Even at that point in 2018, I wasn't using the language that I would use now in terms of trying to be inclusive. No. Because it just didn't
or maybe by 2018
to me.
But not at the beginning of the Guilty Feminist. I didn't know, but we had to learn. But I think if you take it on and you go, okay, that makes this more inclusive.
Now,
that's all you can do.
Absolutely, yeah. And now I would. And I look, because I was looking back at my show, Meaningless, and I was like, because I was clipping it up, and also Soho Theatre have been clipping it up. And I look back at a lot of those clips, and there's loads of things in there. I'm like, oh God, that's not how I would say that now. But I think your podcast and being on your podcast and spending time, like listening to the way you were so vocal about trans rights and so much on the front line of that and got so much shit for it, it really pushed me to think about my own, I'm going to say, transphobia, that I would never have articulated it in that way, and I would never even have seen it that way, but in the way that I just didn't consider trans women. That's fairly transphobic. So I feel like I've grown and I've developed, and I feel much more passionately about that. And I think as a lesbian as well, I see a way a lot of language is used to dehumanize trans people, whether trans women, trans men, non-binary people. And that language was used for lesbian and gay people. And now we're adopting that language and using it against trans people. And I'm like, what the hell are we doing? Like the LGB group, it's like, go get fucked. I don't want to be part of that. And yeah, so I feel like I've grown as a feminist in that way, and also just being more self-aware, I suppose. I think there was a lot of inertia, a lot of sleepwalking through our third wave of feminism, going, oh, we've done it, well done us, that's great, rather than seeing how easily and how quickly, as we can see now, all of these rights can be put, that rug can be pulled, and it is being pulled quite quickly.
Yes, absolutely. That's been such a learning curve for me on the show, because I would get emails saying it's not this, it's that, and I would have to read about it and think about it and talk to people about it, talk to my trans friends about it, and then go, okay, I see this, and incorporate it, because I want to do things thoughtfully. I don't want to just do things because I've been told. I need to understand it and assimilate it, and also create an environment where, and sometimes I would feel like, oh God, here I am being the police or something, saying to guests, we tend to use this language rather than that language. But I think people were always open to it, because we want to learn as a community to be as inclusive as we can be. There were all sorts of issues on which I wouldn't have said, if you listen to old episodes of The Guilty Feminist, you would hear little moments of, I didn't really understand fully about sex work, or I didn't really fully understand about how to talk about disability, or there were lots of things, and I'm still learning. And also, language changes.
Yeah.
There'll be things that we're saying in 5 years that we're not saying now.
Yeah. Well, I think what is interesting, and what you're doing with this Gilead series that you've begun, is you're shining a spotlight on something that we were not even aware of, that's been building and growing for the last 8, 9, 10 years. It's been buzzing away in the background, this infiltration of the Christian far right into British politics, into British mainstream thought, into feminists, into feminist groups, like how can we, that these women have all come together and they're all, really unified and strong. How can we split that?
Yeah.
All of those conversations that you're having now, I had no idea. And now that you are talking about it, I see it so clearly. I see it everywhere. And now when I explain it to other people, they're like, what? First, people think I'm a nut job, that I'm a conspiracy theorist. But then I'm like, you have got to listen to Deborah's podcast, because she's much more articulate, and you can make it much more palatable, not palatable, but bite-sized. Like it's like easier to digest.
I feel
I'm a word salad woman.
No, you're not. I feel I'm back at the beginning. This is what excites me about it. I'm back at the beginning, like I was at the Guilty Feminist 10 years ago, that I'm learning again about what's been happening, what's going on, how do we fight it. What I would say to you, Jen, is you have been such a leader on Gaza in a way that has astounded me. And I have just been constantly blown away by how hard you've worked, how consistently you worked, how much you've put of yourself into this, and you haven't made it some kind of, oh, I'll do this for the gram, but you've lived it. You've absolutely lived it.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your work in Gaza and All Our Relations, which is a brilliant enterprise to fund families you know personally in Gaza, and it's been astounding to watch you work. Could you talk to us about that? Because I think it's a great act of feminism and social activism that really has mattered.
All Our Relations was co-founded by myself and Georgia, who you had on the podcast. It was born out of wanting to give people some form of agency in Gaza because they didn't have any. The idea being originally was for those people that wanted to evacuate, that we would help them evacuate to Egypt and then support them in Egypt and then see if we could move them out into other countries. But the border closed almost immediately after we were formed, and it became obvious to us that the border wasn't going to reopen. And so it just became about keeping people alive. And so giving them rent money if they needed rent for an apartment, food, paying for education, because, believe it or not, the universities were still functioning, were still working.
Wow.
And even though all the universities were destroyed, those universities are still running courses, but they run the courses online.
Mm.
So people are still studying, believe it or not. A lot of the young people that we look after, we still pay for their education and they are still studying. It's absolutely insane that they'll write essays on their phone. But they're so determined, these young people. So that's how it started. And then as the genocide ramped up and less aid was being allowed in, and the aid, as we've talked about before on your podcast, is stolen and then resold by merchants at exponential rates, and then with commission on top, that's when starvation kicked in, malnutrition. And so then that's when we set up mutual aid projects like kitchens. We have a kitchen in Al-Mawasi in the south in Khan Yunis, and further in the north in Nusrat, we have another kitchen there, and food parcel deliveries. And then it just became all about food and nothing else. So that's all we were doing, was feeding people, still paying people's rents and things. And that's when the work that we did spread out. So it wasn't just about these 21 families. It became about the 21 families and the communities that they were living in. And so we now have a network where we feed, on top of our families, probably, I would say, between 400 and 500 people a day.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And then on top of that, we had food parcel deliveries, which will feed about another 30 families. So that might be another, the families are often quite big. So about another 30 families a week. So it's been really expensive because commission went at its height was 50%. So that means that you had to make, everything was you had to make double. If I needed $1,000, I had to make $2,000. I had to raise $2,000. But the commission has gone down now since the so-called ceasefire. The commission's gone down. And so we're in a slightly better situation financially in terms of what things cost. But we're in a worse situation financially because people aren't donating.
Because people think it's done.
Yeah.
I think there's a ceasefire, so why am I giving all that? I've given enough, or cost of living I can't afford to, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I totally understand that, the cost of living and often it's the people with the least amount of money that are donating the most often, and I see that. It's just fucking people with money, man. They're like the stingiest bastards. I can't get over how many rich people I know who are like, give me $1,000. You could give me $1,000 a month. You wouldn't even miss it. You wouldn't even notice it gone. It's incredible to me. But the issue is with the ceasefire is, one, there isn't a ceasefire, and two, the genocide continues because there's hospitals aren't functioning. There's not enough medicine. There's not enough food.
Ala, who's our Gaza correspondent at the Guilty Feminist, she's a nurse. She was working in this makeshift hospital, and she said it's psychological warfare as well because we can't go back to our homes. There was a 15-year-old boy who tried to go back to his home just to see if it was still there, and he was just shot by Israeli soldiers for trying to go and look at his home. And she said there's 100, they need 100, 110 trucks a day, and there's 10, and they're just not getting. She said we still don't have any medical supplies. medical equipment. There's no reason why those trucks can't come in. They're just not letting them in. And so it's really torturous. And somehow every single time I meet her or she comes on a Zoom, which is sporadic because of time and internet and all of that, internet access, she looks immaculate. And I don't know how she does because
I don't know how the women do it in Gaza.
Because she's living in a tent.
I don't know how they do it.
I've seen where she's living. She's living in a tent and she's often off a 12-hour shift and she looks a lot more put together than I do.
Their eyebrows are always done.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think pride in appearance. I notice it in refugee camps as well.
Yeah.
It's like the one thing I can control. And it's a dignity thing that it's like, you're not going to take my grooming away. I'm going to just make sure that I am put together because I'm a human being. I'm not somebody that you can just put into the mud and just expect that I'm going to give up.
Yeah, it's all about dignity and self-respect. Yeah. I think another thing to note is, and I think, none of this is ever covered, so that's why I want to quickly touch on it. When you talk about those aid trucks that are coming in, there are more aid trucks coming in, but it's also really important to know that aid isn't being distributed as aid, number one. It's still being hijacked and it's still being resold. So no one is being given aid. You still have to buy that aid. The other thing to note is that the aid that is being allowed in is often sweets, Coca-Cola,
really,
iPhones.
Wow.
So when a lot of those trucks that are coming through, yes, they're bringing goods in, but they're not bringing what people in Gaza need, which is food that is highly nutritious, medicine, formula for babies, nappies, analgesics they can't get hold of at the moment in Gaza. There's virtually no analgesics at all.
Wow.
So that's the sort of stuff that they need, and that is what they're not getting. But if you want to get the newest iPhone, you can buy that for $2,500 or whatever it is. So what people will be dying of is malnutrition, illness, and suicide.
Just terrible. Just terrible. How can we help all our relations?
Give me your money. Go to allourrelations.co.uk. We have the gift of shelter or the gift of food from our website. That's how you can help us. Or you can make just a blanket donation. You can go to allourrelations.co.uk and donate there. Basically, any amount will help. Just to give you an idea, we're doing a winter push. So a mattress is probably about $40. And an awning is about, to put over a tent to make it waterproof is like $60. And $60 will also feed a family for a week.
Jen, to finish up, first of all, do you remember your first ever I'm a Feminist But?
Oh my God, no. No, I don't.
We'd like to play it for you.
I'm a feminist, but I recently got into a debate with a bloke about a subject I think I know quite a lot about, not least because I'm having this very personal experience at the moment. But he was talking with such confidence and he was talking so very loudly that halfway through I thought to myself, oh my God, maybe you do know more about the symptoms of the perimenopause than I do.
Okay. That's classic, Jen. Classic, Jen. I'd also like to play you some clips of you enjoyably mocking me because I think you're one of the best. Not everyone does this. Not everyone takes these liberties.
Okay.
But you do in such a brilliant way.
We were going to talk, or rather you didn't want to talk, but I'm going to make you talk about...
What?
Hang on, just
Where's
wait.
this going?
It's going somewhere dark.
Oh,
it isn't.
shit.
It's fun times. Celebrities.
Yeah.
Things that you say to us, and you're like, I can't talk about it because it's going to make me look like a wanker. Well, I want you to look like a wanker, so tell me this story.
When we have our private chats backstage, Jen,
I like to make them public.
that is what we've realised. No, I just said... Don't...
We can edit it out, but let's just hear the story.
I remember this
I never would have said the name. I just said a famous American actress. There was no need for saying the name. Oh, my God. You are not trusted with anything else.
To be fair, Selinsky told me that.
Oh, my God, stop.
So a famous American actress, let's pretend we don't know.
Was it?
Okay. The reason
These are some great times we've had.
We've
I
had some
always
fun.
absolutely love having you on the show. Can I ask, looking at the next 10 years for feminism, what are you hoping for?
I'm hoping for the demise of the Christian far right. I am hoping for a unification of all feminists, that we actually recognise who the real enemy is, and it's that 1% isn't trans women.
No.
It's billionaires and the tech bros. And I really, that's what I really hope for, that we realise who the enemy is, and we all come together and we work together as and form a viable,
proper resistance.
A proper resistance that actually stands up. And we don't need everyone. I was talking to someone and they were like, well, most people don't care. I was like, we don't need to worry about most people. We don't need most people. The Christian far right didn't need most people to be on board to like fracture our society. And we don't need everybody on board to heal our society. But we do need to come together, and the left and the progressives and the people that are being described as the populists, we do need, on the left, we do need to form a
chunky minority.
Yeah,
we need a chunky minority. But also, I think there's a lot of people who, quote unquote, don't care because they've seen that politics lets them down time and again. And I think we need to re-engage people and say there is hope for democracy, but we have to do it together. I think more people can be won over if they could believe that things could be different. And I do believe that things can be different.
So do I. And actually, before we started recording this, you said, controversially, I feel really positive, and I really feel like feminism is going to move in a really positive way, and create a sort of almost like a new world order for us than the one that we've been sleepwalking into. And I feel the same.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful time where instead of making things incrementally better within a system, it's either going to go far right or it's going to make a big change that makes life better for a lot of people. And I truly believe that in many countries around the world, there is a desire for things to be much, much better, and not based on hate, but based on hope and true coalition.
A hundy P, as my kids would say.
A hundy P?
A hundy P.
And I want that future for your kids. Your kids are 11 now?
They're 11 now, yeah. And that's what people are like, why are you so like... I'm like, I'm not going to leave this world, shit show because I couldn't be bothered to get off my arse and fight for something that
you believe in.
That I believe in.
In 10 years' time, your boys will be 21.
21, and I will be 60, and that's okay. And we mustn't pensioner. I'll be a pensioner, Deborah.
No.
Yes.
You're laughing if you think the government's going to give you a pension at 60.
You're right. What is it?
It'll be
72.
It'll be 75 by the time.
I'll be dead by then.
You will not be dead by 75.
Something to look forward to.
And on that upbeat Brister note,
you're welcome.
I'll be dead by then. I'm a feminist, but I'll be dead by then. I don't need to worry.
I don't need to worry about it. Good luck, guys.
I will leave you on this quote from yourself.
From me? Ugh.
Yeah, you wrote this in The Guardian a few years ago. Under best advice that you'd like to give. And it says, as a woman who is heading inexorably towards 50, can I just take this opportunity to say to any young person who might be having a shit time and wondering if this is it? It isn't. It gets better. My 20s were awful. My 30s weren't much better, but my 40s have been great. I can't wait to be 50 because I know it's going to be my finest decade. Life can and will get better. You have so much to look forward to. Jen?
I can't believe I wrote that.
Well, if not, your PR wrote it for you.
Oh, God. If only I paid for PR. I would have put something a little bit more negative in.
Well, I'm thrilled to see that you were feeling positive that day. You had taken your HRT on that day.
I'd had 4 pumps that day.
Jen, I believe with powerhouses like you really, really care, and you've really, really worked hard, especially for Gaza. And I truly believe if all of us work as hard on something as you've worked on Gaza, I have great optimistic hope for this world and our future. We just all have to pick up the baton on something that really matters and go for it.
Yes, I completely agree.
Link arms and collaborate.
Yeah. I'm very rarely earnest, but I actually agree with you, Deborah, and I'm not going to say any more. Leave it there.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks for being a 10 for tenner.
What an absolute joy.
You have been listening to The Guilty Feminist with me, Deborah Frances-White, and my very special guest, Jen Brister. The Guilty Feminist theme tune was composed by Mark Hodge, the producers for The Spontaneity Shop were Ned Sedgwick and Tom Salinsky. Thanks to Gina Dicio, Zainab Mohammed, and all of you for listening. For more information about this and other episodes, visit guiltyfeminist.com.